Video 3. Understanding your country and topic. Once you have familiarized yourself with the structure and functions of the UN system, the next step should be researching your assigned country as well as topic of negotiations. The sooner, the better. Actually, the majority of your preparation time for the simulation will be spent on this research. So let's present you a quick guide how to get familiar with the topic of the negotiations. At the beginning, you need to develop an overall understanding of the topic. Feel free to use internet resources, such as Wikipedia, as it's probably the best source of information. It is generally comprehensive, fact-checked, and updated. If the topic is too complex, try to break it up into smaller issues to make it easier to understand. Also, know the players, who is affected by the issue and who has the most impact. The next thing you should do is to research the past actions. It is recommended to go to UN website or any other international organization and check for the most important past decisions and actions taken regarding to your topic and who undertook them. It is also important to examine the successes and failures and to attempt to determine why these approaches have succeeded or failed. Additionally, you shouldn't overlook the current situation. Do a search on news pages, but be mindful of your sources. Try to check international media with quality of coverage instead of unfamiliar sources with unknown background. Finally, try to imagine the future outlook. Research on possible solutions is one of the most important things to do because this will be the meat of final resolution. Try to identify trends indicating where the issue is going and what the recommendations for future are. Read speeches by experts on the issue, think tank reports, and policy papers to determine potential actionable plans. Now, let's take a look on how to develop a basic knowledge about the country you are going to represent as a delegate. You may begin by researching political structure of the country, its economic condition, religion, history, and culture, since all of these factors shape a state's foreign policy. Also, do not overlook aspects of your state's domestic policy, as familiarity with all these areas will assist you in forming a consistent country position. What is the key starting point for researching all these issues? We recommend you to check your country's foreign ministry and government's websites, domestic programs within your country's voting record in UN on key treaties or resolutions, or NGO or think tank policy recommendations. Nevertheless, never underestimate yourself and don't be afraid to use your own creativity. We also recommend to create so-called country profile, or a worksheet to help you understand your country. The best way how to do it is to find answers to questions about country's physical geography, examine the map, figure out where your country actually is, how big it is, and determine your neighbors. Also, do not overlook information about what is your country's official name. Country's population. How many people live in your country? What is your country's ethnic composition? What is your country's official language? And what other languages are spoken there? Country's political background. When was your country founded? What type of government does your country have? And who are some of your country's leaders? Who are your country's allies and enemies? And finally, information about country's economic situation. What is your country's total GDP? And what are some of your country's natural resources? What is your country's currency? What are your country's major exports and imports? And finally, remember to check out who are your country's biggest trading partners, as trade partner generally equals ally. On the top of that, it is always useful to learn as much as possible about country's history, recent development, and to find out what are the country's biggest strengths as well as weaknesses. The golden rule is that you should research as much as you need to feel comfortable representing your country. When you're done with basic information, then it's time to move on to the real meat of your research, and that is the position of the country you're supposed to be representing on the negotiation topic at hand. That's why in the next video, we will look on how to combine all the information you've gathered in order to create and write the most relevant country position ever.